Okay, so I'm going to do a demonstration of a monochromatic simple painting. I have a photo reference that I'm not going to show you yet because I want you to first think about doing a flat wash base without any kind of drawing, just to satisfy the requirement of a flat wash. I'm going to use my big round pointy brush, and I'm going to use two colors, one warm, one cool, of the reds. And I'm going to do a variegated flat wash between the two. Alright, and I want this to be T-strength. So just to let you know my setup, I'm right-handed, so I have my palette on my right. I have a dabbing cloth in between myself and my painting, which I have taped down Arches 140-pound cold press to gator board. And I've used masking tape to tape all around, paying particular attention to getting a good seal and crossing over the tape on the corners. I also have myself set up at a slant. I'm using an easel-lite board made out of corrugated cardboard and prepared especially for me by a former student of mine. Okay, I also have my spray bottle handy that I filled up. I've got 2 bins of water. I want the water up and to my right because I'm right-handed. I have access to some paper towels right here if I need to, but I also have a little bit of crumpled up towel in my off painting hand. I have the tape that I used to tape down my painting, and I have a reference photo that I'll show you in the next stage. So the first thing I want to do is get my paint ready, and I want this to be T-strength. So I'm going to use my coral color, quinacridone coral. You can use your Pale Red, something warm. So I'm going to use 2 reds, quinacridone coral and quinacridone rose. So I have both temperatures of red, and I'm using a high value warm red. So whatever your warm red is, you may not choose red, you might choose blue, but use both of your colors, both of your temperatures to create it. Okay, and the most important thing is to get up more paint than you think you need so you don't run out in the middle of a wash of paint. So that's my quinacridone coral, or my cool, my warm red, and this will be my cool red. And they're very close. They make a nice pink color, but when you see them both pulled out, you can see this one skews more to the orange side and this one skews more to the red side. You might have a different red and a different cool. They might have different values. So in general, we paint light to dark in any given painting. And sometimes we try to save whites. I'm not going to do it for this stage, just to show you can get a really nice painting without saving whites. That'll be in our white lesson, which is, I believe, lesson number 4. And now I'm just going to take this right to my easel board, since it's waterproof. Okay, so you can see the taping process. I'm going to want to leave about a 1/4 inch. If you pull the tape and measure with your thumb, you tend to waste less tape by getting it either too short or too long. So again, this is 140-pound Arches cold press. I'm just using a small sheet so I can demonstrate quickly the process. Remember, we can go in on wet paper too. That's an option. So I'm going to just wet this first and then let it dry back a little bit. And this will weaken my pigment too. I just want this to be a nice toned paper. I'm going to try to get that hair out of there, kitty cat hair. Okay, so I'm using a real light touch, and I'm getting rid of all the dry spots. Sometimes I have to look at it sideways to figure out where the dry spots are. Okay, and now I'm going to let that dry back just a bit. till it gets to the damp stage. Just so I can hopefully keep another method for keeping the streaks out of my color. If you do this at a slant, it tends to dry a little faster. You can accelerate it by taking a piece of paper towel, rolling it up, or a regular towel, and just kind of collect that bead that's forming there. And then I'll just kind of roll up the page just to take the real wet surface off of there. Maybe a couple of times. Let's see if that helps with the striation. So again, I'll start with the cool. I think I started to say that. Let's see if that holds its bead. It might be too wet. Let's try it. Yep, it seems to be holding the form because I got it dried back enough. It's running away there. That's okay. We'll just keep it going. So if you let it dry back a little better, it holds that shape, but we won't worry about it. We'll just work quickly. So working on the wet surface tends to also avoid I'm using my S-Caress to pull that bead down on a wet surface. I'm working faster, but I've gone from cool to warm. Okay, first thing I want to wipe off the edge. I'm going to just run this along the edge. Be careful not to get the towel into the painting. So we have a nice, clean, flat wash. Now I'm going to use my brush that's nice and thirsty to kind of keep collecting that bead. Okay, that's a much better value. I want to just tone the paper a little bit from cool to warm. A variegated wash. These two colors are pretty close. The temperature bias is very subtle. Okay, that's much more what I was hoping to do. The bead is forming up. I don't want that to go back into the painting, so I'm going to collect that excess water just like we did before. As I said, it's probably best to just let this dry back naturally. But if you're like me, I'm impatient, especially if I'm doing a video. I want to get it done. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this one off as well, just to accelerate. I want to get my pencil out and plan. So I can now show you the source photo that I'm doing. So I've taken a picture of a rose and I've kind of made it turn into almost monochromatic. So now I've got this layer, which is my lightest value, my background, and now I'm going to find the next layer value. So if I squint at it, I can kind of see, and I'm only going to draw the areas that contain the next area value. So I'm going to kind of just place my subject. I know I've got the side of this stem. I'm not going to do the whole thing because these are darker up in here. So I'm just going to paint or draw this value layer here. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to catch. Let me go ahead and just do this, the shadow side of that leaf and the shadow side of this leaf, because everything is going to be at least this dark. So I can paint things that are darker this time. So I'm going to do the shadow side of the rose. I'm just doing a contour of the whole shape of the rose at this stage. And where it's really light, I'm going to lose that edge. I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm not going to draw that line because I'm not going to paint there. I want to leave that nice and light. I want the background in the first layer of the rose to be the same value. This will all make sense in a moment. So there's that second rose there. And then I have some leaf shapes over here. And another leaf, I'm going to make it come down and overlap, because overlapping is cool. But I want the side of this stem to be lost. So I just want to paint that leaf there. And then I'll go ahead and paint this leaf because it's at least that dark, and this leaf here, that shape. So I know it's hard to see my pencil marks, my planning marks, so I'm just going to darken them. I don't want you to do this because it'll frustrate you, but I'm going to darken my pencil marks just so you can see them. So now I'm just going to paint with the same method, kind of, these shapes once a bit lighter. So I'm going to take my same strength of pigment and I'm going to go over it. It's going to darken it because it's glazing over the top and creating one level darker value. I'm not going to worry about everything. I know everything that I've drawn in has at least this value. So I'm just going to change the color occasionally. Sometimes I'll make it the warm red and sometimes I'll make it the cool red. And then I'll just paint these shapes using my S-Caress or using my flat wash techniques. However you want, you just want to paint those shapes. Keep a light touch. You come off the page, reload. So I'll do pink up here, the cooler color, almost a calligraphy stroke to find the stem. Now maybe I'll change to the coral and I'll paint this shape here. I'm going to go all of these, everything I have a pencil shape around, I'm going to paint at least that value. I'm just going to ignore greens because I'm doing a monochromatic painting and I want it to be all just a value painting. I'm not going to worry about the color at this stage. It's just going to all be the same color. And I picked up some pink. Let me pick up some red, and it's the same strength. That's why I've got extra over here, so I might as well use that up. Okay, so I'm painting that shape. I'm going to clean up my brush and I'm going to collect that extra water that's forming up so it doesn't flow back into the painting. I'm painting at an angle. And I'm just looking at values using either my flat wash technique or my S-Caress technique. Alright, and then I'm going to blow dry that back. Once that's dry, I'm going to get my pencil out and plan again. So this is the one that I want to keep light. So I'm going to paint around this dark leaf in the back. So I'm just going to give myself a pen. I'm going to paint this darker. And I'll paint behind there, and I'll paint this all darker and leave that light pit there. This one I'm going to paint inside that shape dark and leave that light. And then I'm going to paint half of that dark and leave the rest light. And then I'm going to put a little bit of dark, more dark, over there. And then I kind of messed this up, but I corrected. So this is the light part of the leaf. I'm going to paint this dark. And then I'm going to paint this shape of dark. I'm going to paint a leaf now in here that I didn't find last time. So I'm going to paint this leaf all darker. And another leaf over here I'm going to paint darker. And then now this is that area, so I'm going to paint that darker. I'm going to find this leaf. This is all going to be dark over here. I'm going to find some dark shapes in there. I'm going to put a little triangle of dark there, and a dark there, and a dark over here. Okay, so now I'm going to thicken my paint a little, and I want to make sure that my whole paint, so wherever I reach into this puddle, it's the same strength. The same thing with my red. I want to thicken it up so it's a little stronger paint. So I did 2 layers of tea strength. Now I'm going to move into more of a coffee strength. Same colors. Okay, I'm going to do this whole leaf dark. So I'm just going to work the shape. I'm going to make that leaf light behind, and so this one behind is darker. Okay, and then this one I'll use the pinker red, and I'll just paint half of that darker. And this one I'm going to just paint that darker as well. On here I've got this little tiny shapes darker, almost a calligraphy stroke. Pull that out. And here I'm going to leave this leaf light and paint this leaf dark. Let me get some of my coral color. And I'm going to make a command decision, and I'm going to paint half of this leaf dark and half of this leaf dark. I'm going to go ahead and come down here and paint that dark. And here I'm going to create a shape that's the back side of the petal. Paint that dark and this darker. I'm just building up the value layers of this rose. So this is more of the warm rose or the coral color. I'm going to paint that in, that shape in. Got this little shape, I'm going to leave an edge between them. And then I'm going to leave an edge there. Let's go ahead and paint this with the coral. Just that shadow cast by the petal is a little bit darker. And then this is a dark shape here. There's a little bit of light, and then it's dark over here. And my rose is starting to pop out. So I'm going to come back up here. In general, you want to work the top to the bottom. So I'm going to call out the edge of that stem there. And this leaf casts a little shadow on it, and then a little bit of dark here. So I'm not bothering myself with extra colors. I'm just doing a monochromatic rose. Not worrying too much about edge control. Okay, over in here I think I want to just do this dark over in here, just to look like that's the inside of the leaf. On this one I'm going to do a little shape here. I'm leaving an edge between this forward leaf and the back leaf. I just want to have this leaf have 2 values. And then I'm going to put a dark side on the stem right there. I think I'm going to take a little bit of value right there, but I really want to have no edge. there, between the background and the main rose. Okay, I'm going to collect that water as it starts to pool down at the end. Wipe off my brush after I collect it. Be very gentle and light touch on the paper. Okay, I'm going to dry this back. Actually, before I do, I want to call out the edge of this leaf here by putting a little bit of a shadow there with my Escarres. Okay, now I'm going to find even more darks. Let's see, I'm going to try to avoid going into the corner. I'm going to separate this leaf into, so this will be the dark area. Maybe I'll have a lip comes over there like that. Yet another dark around there. I'm going to make half of this leaf dark and half of this leaf dark, so the light's coming from this side. So everything opposite the light is going to be darker. So I'm going to create some dark shapes. These are very small movements. I'm going to leave that alone now. I think that side of the leaf is done. I'm going to put a little dark there and a little dark there. I might put a dark stroke in there. Okay, then I'm going to thicken my paint even more. Now I'm into the creamy stage, both colors if you're using two colors. So I'm into the creamy stage now. Alright, so then this is, I'll just paint these darks. I'm using my Escarres, trying to keep a constant contact. When I come off, I'm going to reload. Maybe up here I'll use the cooler red. I'm going to find this inside the leaf shape. I'm just going to paint the shape that I've planned with my creamier pigment. So now I'll continue that line below that leaf. And so this is the interior of a leaf up in here. Okay, over here I'm going to find a little bit more dark on that and a little bit more dark on that leaf. And let's go ahead and put a little more dark here around this leaf. And let's put a little dark fold there, a little dark fold there, maybe around the edge of the outside of the leaf it's fairly dark, or the petal, and then back behind there it's quite dark. Just a little tip in there. Nice little dark triangle there. So there's, compared to the other shapes in size, this is very small pieces. Maybe I want to give a striation to this leaves to help tell the story of the rose. Put a little bit of jagged edge. Oops, I guess it wouldn't have a jagged edge there, would it? It would have a jagged edge here. And then maybe I'll put a little bit of dark right inside that leaf there. Okay, simple subject. We'll just, so that satisfies all the requirements of the Escarres and the theme. So I'm stealing Charles's theme. And now I need to do a little bit of calligraphy stroking. So maybe I'll take a little bit of my creamy quinacridone coral, and I'm just going to outline a little bit. So that's a pull stroke. And I'm going to just hint at a little bit of the edge of that flower there, and maybe the outside edge of this stem with a pull stroke. So I'm going to get up vertical and just do a couple of strokes there. And I want to do a push-pull stroke, so maybe I'll do a little leaf here. So I'm going to start, I'm vertical to my paper. I'm going to pull first, then push, and then pull out again. That's one there. Let's do another one here that comes out here. So I'm going to push to start with. I didn't really load my brush very well, so I'm going to push to start with and then pull out into a leaf. Let's do that up here too. Just give myself a few extra leaves to satisfy my requirements. Maybe I'll put a little bit of dark on the back side of that. So there's a simple little sort of kind of like a rose using a monochromatic painting. I want to make sure I sign it. You can use a pencil or you can use a brush. I recommend a pencil until you figure out how you want to sign your paintings, but I'm going to use this rigger brush, which is a long thin hairs, not very many, very long, and I'm just going to sign my name over here in the corner for balance. I don't like the signature to take over the painting, so I tend to take a piece of paper towel and just to dab it back. But you're welcome to sign your paintings with a pencil to start with. Alright, once it's dry, so let's go ahead and make sure it's really dry. Once it's really dry, you can get your kneaded eraser and try to erase back the pencil marks if you don't like them. Some people like them. I don't mind them. Sometimes I even like to get a darker color and embellish them if I can erase them back. So I just smeared that because it wasn't quite dry. But if I take a big chunky number 9 3B, let's see if I have anything even darker, for a 9B or something dark, HB 8B. So what if I did this and found the outside edges a little bit, gives it, can combine it with drawing to help find the shapes. Can kind of be a fun finish to the painting. I encourage you not to draw everything, but just a few dark marks here and there to find the outside petal edges. Especially where you have those lost edges. You can draw outside the lines. And it's a nice little rose composition. We'll have this one coming out here. Right, I am done. Can be kind of a fun little effect. Sorry, one last thing I want to do is to show you that if you're careful with your tape application, you can get a nice border to your painting. So when you remove the tape, remove away. Start with the last one you put on. So pull away from your painting in case it rips. It won't rip into your painting. So the next one was this level. So you see how you pull away and it leaves a nice almost little border for you. So get your tape. Masking tape doesn't have the best gum. Oops, pulled the wrong one first. Pull away. So it's ripping the paper a little bit, but since I'm pulling away, it's not affecting my painting itself. So that is the last little tip to help you keep out of trouble. This masking tape is really sticky. Okay, there's the nice little painting. I'll put it against a gray background so you can see the white edge. Nice little simple painting.